I want to bring in Democratic Congressman Courtney of Connecticut now. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Martin.
I wondered if I could get your immediate reaction to what you've just heard and what we're hearing about this shooting in Houston.
Well, as Chris said, the velocity of these events, and, one after another, just, since Newtown at the end of 2012, really shows that, we have a very unstable situation in terms of the gun violence in this country. The president yesterday, I think, again, powerfully mentioned the Newtown situation and the need to make sure that we protect children. But we also, need to extend that, obviously, to higher education. What Chris said was well said, which is that campuses, should be a place where a student like the one on that phone call should be able to go and study English and not worry about having to dive under her desk or, behind, corners of the building to avoid getting injured seriously. So, I'm on the Education and Workforce Committee. We actually just met this afternoon. The chairman of the committee, Mr. Klein from Minnesota, Republican, made a pledge that we are going to be holding hearings on school violence, and I'm trying to be an optimist that the president's words yesterday, the willingness to in the House to actually have these issues brought up for consideration are going to produce some real results that will make this a safer country.
Because it's a public health problem, isn't it? I mean, gun violence is no less significant in its impact than public health issues like obesity in this country. I mean, this is just out of control, isn't it?
It is, and that's where, and again, when we see the problem stretch from poor inner city schools to the rolling hills of Newtown, as the president said yesterday, it really shows that it is almost epidemic in terms of the scope of it, and that's why, again, the good first steps that he made using his executive branch authority to strengthen the database on people with mental illness into the gun control system, is a good first start, but obviously Congress really has to treat this as an issue that all of us are responsible for.
And yet, Mr. Courtney, not everyone shares your view. We know that some on the right bristle even at the slightest discussion of some form of gun control. Here's Senator Ted Cruz, who represents Texas. Of course, Houston is in Texas, where today's shooting took place, and here he is at today's Meet the Press.
What I don't think is constructive is what the president is doing right now, which is within minutes of that horrible tragedy in Newtown. The president began trying to exploit that tragedy to push a gun control agenda that is designed to appeal to partisans, designed to appeal to his political partisans.
So, Congressman, are we exploiting today's shooting again by discussing it? Or is it a fact of life that every single day this kind of incident happens and we could fill our hour every day with these incidents?
Yeah, the president has been in office 4 years. There have been horrible shootings in Aurora, the Sikh temple in Wisconsin.
The shopping mall in Oregon.
Right. So the fact that, we had a situation where 6-year-olds were gunned down in Newtown, Connecticut is hardly example where the president, was sort of exploiting a situation politically. The fact of the matter is that, like so many Americans, was the final straw, and what he said that night at the interfaith vigil, what he followed through a month later with the new regulations, is exactly the way a democracy is supposed to work. When public outrage about a situation that again extends to our children, small children, to respond to that is in fact doing his job, and I hope individuals like Mr. Cruz will temper the politics and the partisanship and really look at these proposals very clearly as matters of law and constitutional principle and come up with a decent, smart set of packages that's going to make this country safer.
I should remind our viewers, Congressman, we're discussing a shooting at the Lone Star College in Houston, North Harris campus, 20 miles north of Houston, where 3 individuals were apparently shot. An altercation or an argument occurred apparently in the library, and then one individual we saw pictures of one individual handcuffed. The college has been on lockdown. There are 3 schools nearby that are also on lockdown. The college itself has been evacuated and is closed for the day. I wonder, sir, if I could get your reaction to a Texas state senator who refiled a bill 5 days ago to allow concealed weapons on Texas campuses where the law currently prevents that. I mean, is that the answer to this problem, sir?
It's not, and as Mr. Van Sant mentioned earlier, the only people who should be armed on college campuses or grade schools or high schools are licensed professional law enforcement personnel. And, you know, we went through, again, another horrible shooting at Virginia Tech, actually under the Bush administration, and the President Bush, to his credit, actually did sign into legislation allow, again, the database to take in records from state probate courts of people who've been found mentally incompetent. Unfortunately, that system has not been funded under the Republican-controlled Congress over the last 2 years. You know, we've got to look at that Virginia Tech response by a Republican president, initially Democratic Congress, that moved and changed policy as really the path that we need to follow today, and not, again, turn this country into a place where any kid going to school is going to have to be wondering about the student next to them, about whether or not, you know, they're going to be engaged in some gunfight, when they actually should be working towards what educational institutions are designed for, which is to produce better futures for students in our country.
Congressman Joe Courtney, sir, thank you so much for joining us on this difficult day. Thank you, sir.